The bullet that broke the galaxy. The diplomatic vessel Aurora's Grace drifted toward the Imperial Convergence Station like a snow-white blade entering a colossal steel heart. Inside its polished corridors, General Marcus Hale adjusted the ceremonial clasp on his uniform. Gold trim, pristine fabric, the quiet weight of countless battles etched across his shoulders. He had survived ambushes, coups, orbital sieges, and political betrayals, but nothing felt as dangerous as what awaited him today. Peace, or the last chance at it. The Galactic Empire had tolerated Earth's rise for decades, watching the young species climb from interstellar infancy to strategic relevance with speed that unsettled every old-world power. And now, border tensions had turned to skirmishes, skirmishes to disappearances, disappearances to accusations. The galaxy whispered that war was inevitable. But Hale didn't believe in inevitability. He believed in choices. As the docking clamp sealed, Earth's ambassador whispered beside him, "One last meeting, Marcus. Just get them to agree to the demilitarized line. Then we can all breathe again." Hale nodded. If they want peace, they'll have it. If they want blood, well, we've spilled enough of that for 10 lifetimes. The doors slid open, revealing the legendary council chamber of the 7 species. The air shimmered with holographic star maps, cascading ribbons of blue and violet light over a sweeping circular table. Seated behind it were the Empire's leading delegates, tall reptilian strategists with jade skin, horned diplomats with silver eyes, silent observers whose hands flicked across glowing datapads. 7 different cultures, 7 different agendas, all unified in suspicion. Every gaze locked onto the lone human. Hale stepped forward, unarmed, unflinching. General Marcus Hale announced the chamber AI, representative of Earth's United Defense Council. He bowed his head slightly. "I come to negotiate a future free from war." The High Consul, a towering emerald-skinned dignitary draped in obsidian robes, offered a thin, cold smile. "We hope the same, though some among us suspect your people's expansion suggests otherwise." "Expansion?" Hale countered calmly. "Our colonies grow because our population does. We've respected every treaty. But your forces have crossed our borders 17 times in 6 months. You abducted miners from the Helion Belt. You seized 3 transport ships. We have the recordings. Another alien, the Imperial warlord, massive and armored, snorted. Humans always claim victimhood while waving statistics." A star map flickered. Hale swiped his hand through it and projected the footage. Imperial soldiers, forcibly escorting human civilians into a shuttle. Unprovoked border scans escalating into full weapon locks. A destruction of an unarmed Earth scientific probe. The room grew tense. "We are here," Hale said, "to prevent these incidents from dragging the galaxy into a war nobody survives." For a moment, the chamber was still. Even the alien aides shifted uncertainly, their green hands resting lightly on the table's mirrored surface. The High Consul leaned forward. "General Hale, if Earth guarantees a halt to expansion beyond the Helios route, we cannot halt civilian settlement." Hale interjected politely. "We can regulate it, monitor it, but we will not cage our people. And that is why we distrust humanity," the warlord snapped. "Too bold, too fast, too proud." Hale wanted to sigh. Instead, he pressed a calm hand to the datapad holstered at his hip. "Pride is not our aim. Survival is." The warlord rose, armor plates clattering. "Perhaps you misunderstand your position. You stand before the Empire, the eldest alliance of the stars." Hale's jaw tightened a fraction. "And I stand here unarmed, seeking cooperation. That should tell you everything you need to know about Earth's intentions." Tension rippled across the delegates. Several aides whispered among themselves. One young aide, pale green and visibly anxious, kept glancing between Hale's hand and the datapad. Sweat, or whatever passed for sweat on his species, gleamed along the ridges of his temples. Hale noticed the fear and softened his stance, hands open. "Listen, nobody here wants conflict. All we need is—" He reached slowly for the datapad, tapping its side to bring up the next set of evidence. And the terrified aide reacted. A flash of blue light tore across the chamber. Hale staggered. His breath caught. Heat, cold, and pressure exploded simultaneously through his chest. He dropped to his knees, staring in shock at the smoking burns spreading across his uniform. The datapad clattered to the floor. The aide screamed. He was reaching for a weapon. Chaos detonated. Delegates shouted. Guards lunged. Sirens blared. Holograms shattered into fractal sparks. Hale looked up one last time, vision blurring. He tried to speak, maybe to reassure them, maybe to warn Earth, but blood filled his throat before he managed a word. His body slumped forward, collapsing onto the mirrored floor. A single breath escaped. Then silence. The High Consul screamed for medical teams, but it was meaningless. Hale's uniform was still, his eyes half open, reflecting the stars projected above him. Across the station, every human present was immediately seized, disarmed, and shoved against walls. Shouts of murder and accident collided in the air. The Imperial warlord ordered security to confiscate all human equipment before broadcasting an official statement claiming Hale had made a threatening movement. Within an hour, encrypted footage leaked to Earth Command. Within 2, every human news network had replayed the moment a peace-seeking general was executed in a room built for diplomacy. Within 4, spontaneous riots erupted across colonies. By the 6th hour, the UN Defense Council met in emergency session. Their decision was unanimous. Earth would not tolerate a peaceful envoy being slaughtered. Not again. Not ever. As midnight fell across the blue planet, the President of Earth addressed her people with steel in her voice and grief in her eyes. Today, the Galactic Empire shot our olive branch. They murdered our general. They murdered peace. And so, humanity responds with our final war. The galaxy learned then, when you strike a human, you awaken all of Earth. Earth unshackled. The moment General Hale's death rippled across the soul net, the world changed. Streets once filled with ordinary noise, vendors, traffic, the thrum of a civilization in motion, became oceans of fury. Billions stopped what they were doing to watch the replay. Some cried, some screamed, some punched walls, desks, screens. But all of them felt the same thing coil inside their chests. Enough. In the reinforced underground hall of the United Defense Council, holographic screens flickered with live unrest from across Earth and its colonies. The president stood in the center, surrounded by admirals, generals, intelligence chiefs, and the leaders of major off-world settlements. Her face was clean and composed, but her eyes burned with a grief that made her voice vibrate. The Empire believes we are weak, she said. They believe a single shot will terrify us into retreat. They have mistaken our patience for submission. She raised her hand, and the room went still. Activate Protocol Helios. A tremor passed through the chamber. Some leaders nodded grimly. Others closed their eyes as if accepting a fate they'd prayed never to face. But no one objected, because they all knew what Helios meant. Earth was done pretending. Across the solar system, hidden structures awoke. In the Kuiper Belt, disguised as mining operations, a chain of titanic hangars split open like blooming metal flowers. Out of their darkness rose the unregistered Helios-class dreadnoughts, kilometer-long hulls bristling with rail cannons, plasma lances, gravitational shear emitters, and launch bays large enough to berth entire wings of strike craft. For decades, the Empire believed humans were fielding modest expansion fleets. They never suspected Earth had built shadows, hundreds of them. Inside Fleet Command, Admiral Ishikawa watched the stealth signatures drop away one by one as the dreadnoughts announced themselves openly to the system. Status change complete, a technician reported. The Helios fleet is visible across the grid. Broadcasting ID. Ishikawa exhaled. Then the galaxy finally sees us. The dreadnoughts formed into phalanx formations, engines igniting with pale blue fusion fire. Their awakening shook the outer system with a vibration that even listening satellites felt as a low, reverent hum. Humanity's real navy was no longer hidden. In the Empire's capital, shock rippled through the High Council. "It is impossible," hissed the High Consul, pacing in front of a hologram showing more human vessels appearing every hour. "How could they construct these without our intelligence networks discovering anything?" The Imperial warlord slammed a clawed fist onto the table. "Because humans are deceitful. They mask their power with diplomacy." The consul shook his head. "No, they mask their power because they know the moment we realize their potential, we will fear them." A younger delegate whispered, "Perhaps that fear is justified." No one disagreed. Meanwhile, Earth's colonies unified with a speed that stunned even their own leaders. On Titan, miners and engineers volunteered by the thousands. On Europa, bioengineers produced combat stims and emergency medkits without pause. On the sprawling city world of Proxima Prime, militia groups joined the UNDF overnight, swearing oaths beneath holograms of the fallen General Hale. For the first time in generations, humanity was not divided by politics, territory, or ideology. Hale's death had welded them into a single blade. Earth Command had already drafted the counteroffensive. Inside the war room, Admiral Ishikawa outlined Operation Final Dawn with chilling precision. "Step 1, she said, activating the first hologram. "We retake every contested system, with priority on the Helion Belt and the Viral Trade Line." "Step 2, another general added, "we disable the Empire's FDL communication relays. Without their synchronization grid, their fleets will operate blind." "In Step 3, Ishikawa finished, "we capture the Imperial warlord responsible for the cover-up. Alive. The galaxy must see justice, not vengeance." The Council murmured. No one questioned the plan. The Empire had declared themselves above consequence. Earth would correct that misconception. The first blow came 3 days later. Deep in neutral space, the Arax relay, central hub of the Empire's communications, glowed like a blue sun. Imperial guards lounged in its monitoring stations, oblivious to the silent storm drifting toward them. A human infiltration ship, its hull coated in distortion plating, passed through the perimeter undetected. Inside, a special ops team activated their comms. "Relay core sighted," whispered Captain Rena Halloran. "Confirm authorization?" Admiral Ishikawa's voice answered calmly. "Authorization confirmed. Disable, don't destroy." The team launched. Minutes later, the Arax relay went dark, dead silent, its massive communication grid collapsing into static. Empire fleet admirals across the galaxy stared at their failing screens in horror. What happened? Where's the signal? Who hit us? Why can't we contact the core? Humanity had moved faster than the Empire ever thought possible. 3 sectors away, the Empire attempted its first retaliation, a strike force aimed at the Sol system. They never made it. Hidden rail cannon arrays in the asteroid belt powered up simultaneously. Superconductive slugs, moving at fractions of light speed, punched through Imperial cruisers like paper. Their fleet shattered in minutes. One surviving captain transmitted a frantic message. They knew. They were waiting for us. Humans planned for this. He was right. Earth hadn't expected war, but they had prepared for it. Because humans knew something the Empire never understood. Peace is precious. Peace is fragile. And peace must be protected, even if that means war. As Earth's fleets launched toward the Imperial borders, Admiral Ishikawa looked out over the glowing starscape. "General Hale," she whispered, "they thought killing you would break us." Her eyes hardened. They were wrong, and the final war began. The Empire tastes fear. The Kalari expanse shimmered with drifting nebula fog, a violet sea lit by the pale glow of distant stars. It was beautiful, tragically so, because both humanity and the Galactic Empire knew this region would no longer be remembered for its serenity. It would be remembered for what happened here. The Empire sent the Obsidian Armada, its most elite war fleet, veterans of 100 pacification campaigns, destroyers that had burned moons, carriers whose fighter squadrons were legendary across 3 galaxies. No species had ever forced the Empire to deploy this fleet in full. No species until humans. Admiral Virak, commander of the Armada, stood on the bridge of his colossal flagship, the Imperial Scythe. His skin, onyx black, etched with ceremonial scars, reflected the holomap's shifting light. Human fleets detected, announced a tactical officer. 212 vessels forming into attack pattern unknown designation. Unknown. That word bothered Virak more than any tactical disadvantage. The Empire knew every species doctrine, every ship class, every formation. But the humans? Every day, they revealed something new. Bring us forward, Virak commanded. We will crush them in the first engagement. His officers obeyed, but there was a hesitation in their movements. Everyone had watched the footage of General Hale's death. Everyone had seen humanity's reaction. More importantly, everyone had seen humanity's hidden navy emerge from the void like a beast shedding its camouflage. On the other side of the expanse, Admiral Ishikawa's fleet drifted silently in a formation that the Empire had never catalogued. The Helios-class dreadnoughts gleamed with the cold light of purpose, each one pulsing with reactor energy like a heartbeat. Inside her flagship, Ishikawa stood at the tactical display. The Obsidian Armada, her second-in-command, murmured, "Centuries undefeated." Ishikawa didn't blink. Then they have grown complacent. Her eyes hardened as she traced the enemy formations. Launch drone swarms. Synchronized battle AI. And for every adaptive algorithm, they counter. She touched the screen. Give them 3 more. The order was carried with crisp precision. Across the fleet, hatches opened. From each dreadnought, thousands of drones poured into the void, small, agile, lethal. Their collective intelligence rippled through the fleet's neural net like lightning. Humanity didn't just bring numbers. They brought evolution. Instant, relentless, terrifying evolution. The Empire's first volley came like a burning storm. Plasma lances, hypervelocity missiles, solar size blazing across space. The Kalari expanse lit up with streaks of white and gold. But the human drones adapted mid-flight. Their formation shifted, curvature adjusting to match the incoming fire. They intercepted missiles with, of all things, grace. Empire officers stared in disbelief as weapon paths bent around the drone swarms like rivers cutting through rock. "What is this?" Virak muttered. "How do they compensate so fast?" His sensors officer trembled. Their drones, they rewrite their combat protocols every second. There is no pattern to predict. Virak slammed a fist into the railing. There must be a pattern, but there wasn't. Humans had created something the Empire had believed impossible. A war algorithm that behaved less like code and more like instinct. The fleet's closed distance. Rail cannons thundered from human dreadnoughts, slinging metal slugs at velocities that ruptured space-time in their wake. They tore through Imperial shields, shredding armor. The Obsidian Armada staggered. "They aren't supposed to pierce our shells," shouted an Imperial officer. "Our plating can withstand solar flares." "Humans don't fire heat," another growled. "They fire physics." The human rail slugs were pure, brutal force. Simple, efficient, unstoppable. After 2 hours of sustained battle, the impossible became undeniable. The Obsidian Armada was losing. Admiral Virak watched as another of his destroyers blossomed into a dying sun. His crew shouted updates. 5th carrier hit. Drone swarm breaching hangars. Flagship shields failing. We are losing formation. Humans are cutting through our left flank. Virak closed his eyes just for a heartbeat. When did they become this strong? No one could answer. Back aboard the human flagship, Admiral Ishikawa received casualty reports from across the expanse. Losses were expected, but far fewer than feared. Her officers were focused, steady. Humans had always fought well under pressure, but today they fought like something more. Like a species that had been wounded and decided never to be wounded again. As the last Imperial cruiser limped into emergency warp, running from a battle they should have dominated, Ishikawa issued a single quiet order. "Hold position. Let them flee." Her second-in-command blinked. "Admiral, let them carry the message," she said. "The Empire must understand what they've awakened." And so the Obsidian Armada, centuries undefeated, retreated. The galaxy trembled. Far across Imperial space, panic rippled through military academies, naval command centers, and political courts. Analysts replayed the battle over and over, studying the humans' shifting formations, impossible adaptations, and unnerving precision. The Empire's brightest minds reached a chilling conclusion. Humans fight harder after losing comrades. Humans innovate during battle. Humans evolve under pressure. One scientist whispered the final truth no one wanted to document. Humans are the only species that becomes more dangerous the more you hurt them. While diplomats panicked and admirals argued, Earth's next operation had already begun. Strike teams infiltrated Imperial territories, hunting the warlord who orchestrated the cover-up of General Hale's death. They tracked him through hidden bunkers, smuggler routes, and deep-core citadels. Everywhere they went, Imperial soldiers whispered in terror. The humans are coming. They move without sound. They fight without fear. They do not stop. When the warlord was finally captured, alive, the Empire fractured into chaos. Alive meant trial. Alive meant evidence. Alive meant accountability. And that, more than human firepower, terrified them. As the Empire scrambled to hold its territory and its dignity, humanity pressed forward, breaking the core line, once considered impenetrable, with furious precision. In one final broadcast, Ishikawa addressed the galaxy. "We did not choose this war, but we will finish it." And the galaxy realized something terrible. The Empire had expected humanity to break. Instead, they forced humanity to rise. The final war. Admiral Selene Armitage had always imagined humanity's last war would be tragic, grim, a slow extinguishing of a species pushed beyond tolerance. Instead, it felt like a supernova, a sudden, violent, all-consuming eruption of willpower that shook the axis of the galaxy. After the assassination of General Rowan Hale, humanity no longer debated, negotiated, or hesitated. The United Earth Coalition moved in a synchronized fury, a billion hearts pounding the same furious rhythm. Now, aboard the flagship UNS Resolute, Selene stood with a command crew that barely spoke. Words were unnecessary. Each officer carried a piece of the general's memory. The long years of peace he had brokered, the treaties signed with hope, the belief that coexistence had been possible. They also carried the sound of the shot that shattered it all. And now they carried the price. The holodeck projected the Imperial core systems, 7 stars wrapped tightly by military outposts, orbital shields, and defensive fleets. The Empire hadn't expected humanity to come this far. They believed Earth would mourn. Instead, Earth mobilized. "Admiral," said Commander Reyes, "our strike teams report the outer ring is collapsing. Imperial patrols are abandoning posts to retreat deeper. They want to fortify the citadel," Selene murmured. "They think we'll stop here." "We won't," Reyes said without hesitation. Selene nodded. "No, we won't. The citadel, the heart of the Galactic Empire, the seat of the Emperor, the birthplace of the order that had shot their general. Diplomats said it was impenetrable. Soldiers said no fleet could breach it. Historians said no army had ever taken it. Humanity's answer was simple. Then we'll be the first." Selene's voice steadied. "Prepare all fleets for synchronized warp. Phase in at staggered intervals to avoid ambushes. And load the message." 3 officers paused. They knew which one. The message wasn't a plea. It wasn't a warning. It was a statement. A sentence Rowan Hale had once said during a quiet celebration after years of peace talks. At the time, it had felt whimsical, a philosophical musing from a man tired of war. Selene whispered it now, her voice heavy with meaning. "When you kill the man who builds bridges, you force the world to learn how to build battering rams." Her eyes hardened. "Send it to every Imperial channel. Then tell all commanders, begin final war protocol." The warp corridor twisted space into a blinding tunnel. Thousands of human ships burst out at the edge of the Citadel system, arranging with eerie precision, three-dimensional formations of carriers, dreadnoughts, artillery barges, and drone swarms moving like a single organism. The Empire's Grand Defense Fleet greeted them with disciplined silence. Then the stars exploded. Dozens of Imperial warships opened fire in synchronized saturation patterns. Plasma arcs burned across black space, ion cannons screaming in violet trails, kinetic arrays releasing continent-shattering slugs. Humankind returned fire with something the Empire had forgotten humans excelled at: overwhelming, ruthless ingenuity. Rail cavalry ships folded into attack vectors impossible for their mass. Drone strike nebulae swallowed entire Imperial flanks. Shockwave torpedoes detonated inside their shields using micro-warp burrowers. Human forces adapted to each phase within minutes, rewriting tactics mid-battle. The Empire fought valiantly. Humanity fought with purpose. Selene watched the battle unfold with grim clarity. Nothing about this was glorious. Nothing about it was beautiful. But it was necessary. General Rowan Hale had taught the galaxy that peace was worth defending. The Empire had taught humanity that peace was not free. "Admiral," Reyes shouted, "the Imperial flagship has entered the field." Selene narrowed her eyes. And with it Emperor Valor IX, architect of the execution, mastermind of the betrayal, the reason millions now burned in the void. "Lock trajectory," she ordered. "Bring us to intercept." The Resolute surged forward. Enemy ships tried to block their path. They failed. Human vessels cleared a corridor with brutal efficiency, carving a highway of fire straight toward the Emperor's ship. The Imperial flagship dwarfed everything. A golden colossus, bristling with weapons, its hull etched with millennia of victories. Selene faced it without hesitation. Open channels. Static. Then a voice, smooth and cold, filled the bridge. "I see humanity still mistakes vengeance for justice," Emperor Valor said. Selene replied without emotion. "You murdered a man who built peace." "A human," Valor corrected. "And peace built by humans is fragile." She stepped closer to the projector, staring into the Imperial signal with calm fury. "So, is your empire?" Her hand came down. "Fire." The Resolute's main cannon unleashed a beam of white-hot destruction that punched through layers of Imperial shielding like paper. Swarms of Allied firepower followed. Missiles, kinetic lances, orbital strike beams. The Emperor's ship screamed under the assault, plating cracking, reactors buckling. At last, it ruptured into a superheated bloom of light. Silence filled the bridge. Reyes exhaled shakily. The Empire's command structure just collapsed. Their fleets are surrendering. Selene didn't celebrate. She simply closed her eyes, then broadcast General Hale's final message. Let the galaxy hear the truth. Hours later, as the surviving Empire worlds surrendered or sued for peace, Selene stepped onto the command balcony of the Resolute. Earth's banner hung beneath her, a symbol not of conquest, but of consequence. Humanity had never wanted this, but humanity would always finish what others started. She looked into the stars, speaking softly to the memory of the man who gave everything to prevent this war. "Rest now, Rowan. The galaxy will not forget." Behind her, the Earth fleet drifted through the ruins of the Citadel, silent and resolute. Final war was over, but humanity had ensured it would never be necessary again.